Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Oh, yes, lovely. The chat's working this time. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why. So, this is basically just another Life's Library live stream where we can talk about books and spoiler-free talk about Blonde Roots if you like. But also, I just thought it'd be nice to have another moment to sort of like check in with each other, I think, outside of the Discord. And outside of wherever you experience the book club or not at all, on this Tuesday morning, which was a beautiful sunny Tuesday morning, and it's now a overcast Tuesday afternoon, which is really the arc of most days. Mireia Rivera says, not important, but what does your mug say? It says The Common Reader by Virginia Woolf. We have several of these mugs in our flat. This one's my one. I don't know which one Sana has, but she has an orange one. I think I got this from a Penguin event or something a long time ago. It's a very solid, good mug. It's got some orange squash in it, which is a very comforting drink, I found. I found that I've been craving like Ribena and orange squash and all sorts of things. Kira says it was a very dark 10 p.m. in Australia. Well, thank you for joining us. I've been thinking about like what times of day I should do these because I want to keep doing them ideally every 2 weeks. I know it's been about a month since the last one, but ideally every 2 weeks because I think it'd be really fun. But I've been trying to work out what times of day I should do them while also like, there are times of day that I can't. But I also know that when John does his live streams, he's able to do times that I can't. So it all works out. So the book that we're reading this period is Blonde Roots by Bernardine Evaristo. I was just looking on the Discord and also on the Twitter and saw on the help desk that a bunch of you haven't received your copy yet. I'm going to check in with DFTBA about that to see if they have any information they can share. As I said on Discord, I assume it's because of COVID, like postal delays and stuff. But yeah, seeing whether there's anything that we can do, like whether there's a way we can offer an audiobook credit and stuff as well. I've apologized. I've been quite, like most people, I think, scattered over the past week or so, but it's really nice to know that we're all going to be reading this together or have started reading this together. That feels very grounding for me. And John and I are also aiming to record the podcast for Blonde Roots on Thursday, for those of you who get the podcast. And Nikki and I, from my office, are going to work on putting up the 2019 episodes of the podcast week by week at some point. I think ideally I want to launch that in July, but it's one of those wild times. Agnes hasn't really received theirs in France. I'm sorry. I'm going to, as I say, follow up and see whether there are any updates. Hopefully they're all just around the corner. But yeah, I don't really know what's going to happen, but I hope that there's a good alternative that we can figure out, at least for this month. But yeah, really sorry about that. So yes, it's been kind of a chaotic time on every possible front. And I know that a lot of you have also been finding reading hard. I'd be interested to hear if that's like shifted for you or not. I found that generally it's still quite difficult, but there are moments like if I can focus on a book and say like, this is the book that I'm going to be reading. And if it's not super, super, super long, then I'm able to do it. I read a children's Bible by Lydia Millett recently, and that was great. And Blonde Roots is kind of the perfect length for that. And also just, I enjoy Evaristo's writing so much, and the way she plays with genre between her books as well. I enjoy it so much. So I think for me, in this like little bubble world where we're all living in right now, that at once feels very connected and very disconnected, it's helpful to be like, this is the book I'm reading right now. Whereas usually it's like this pile of TBR and things that I've started and not finished and so on, taking it step by step. Hi to everyone who's watching this later, who couldn't make this live in the middle of the day. I'm I'm sorry you couldn't be with us live, but I'm also very grateful you're watching this later. Yeah, so a couple of people, it seems to be mostly Europe actually that hasn't managed to receive books. So Netherlands, Czech Republic. So I'm wondering, yeah, if it is about postal delays, because obviously that's where COVID was really concentrated for a while. Valkyrie says, I had just gotten stuck not reading for about a month, and Blonde Roots has broken my reading drought. I'm grateful. That's great to hear. That's really great to hear. And Kira says they're breaking through the subconscious with audiobooks, and podcasts are helping me to read physical books. For me, it's a lot of radio is helping. And there's actually an abridged version. I think I posted this in the Discord. There's an abridged version of Girl, Woman, Other that's up on the BBC radio if you have access to that. And you can listen to that. It's not the full book, but that might be another way to help. And yeah, I'm watching lots of films, watching more films than I probably ever have in my entire life. And that's been interesting as well as an experience. I watched Won't You Be My Neighbour this morning, which was great because it was much more abstract than I thought it would be. So that was a pleasure. Maz's book is somewhere between the US and France. So I think it's like out there swimming its way to France, and we all wish it the best. Please keep us posted. Amber says they've been enjoying following my Letterboxd. Yeah, I got a Letterboxd, which was great and reminded me that I really, if any of you know a really great book logging app that isn't in any way owned by Amazon, because both Goodreads and then I think Library Thing, I don't know if Library Thing still exists, but Library Thing, Amazon has a stake in that too. But I really enjoy logging my films on Letterboxd at the moment and seeing what other people are watching. Maybe I should just start like a page. Maybe that could even be like a Life's Library. I don't know if it necessarily has to be like a subscriber perk, but just like somewhere I can put like what I've been reading. I don't know, that might be fun. I've had to train myself to read at home because I typically read on public transport or use audiobooks. Yeah, and that's the other thing for me. Like I'm the same as Coiny. My brain just went flat. I'm used to reading on the tube, and I'm used to reading on trains and buses, and now I'm cycling everywhere, which is really fun and I've really been enjoying it. But I'm missing that like concentrated time. So I've been reading like in the bath and I've been reading on my sofa and just specifying reading time, like I'm going to cycle to this park and read 100 pages here. And it doesn't stop it from being fun. It's just different. It's just a different experience now. Like I never have to make as concerted an effort to make time because there are always these natural points in my day that I was used to reading. Valkyrie has made a fancy spreadsheet for logging books. Before I start saying that Library Thing is connected to Amazon, we have like Library Thing ownership. Just a little casual Google. Blog. I mean, I've been thinking about it. I have a website that's been like half in progress for about a year and a half, and it's just appalling. I keep telling myself that I'm going to work on it. Hang on, Library Thing, ownership. Okay, Library Thing is majority owned by founder Tim Spalding. Online bookseller Abe Books, now owned by Amazon, bought a 40% share in Library Thing in May 2006 for an undisclosed sum. In January 2009, Cambridge Information Group acquired a minority stake in the company, and the subsidiary Bowker became the official distributor to libraries. So Amazon owns Abe Books, which, as far as I know, still has a big share in Library Thing. Book stuff, eh? Kate says, due to my changing living, I've started a morning routine that includes 1 hour of reading, which I'm really grateful for. I really like that. In general, I've been enjoying having the mornings as time to use in a different way, and sort of like sitting with the time, if that makes sense. Coiny says, I know Sophie from Portal and the Pages has a great spreadsheet that a lot of booktubers use. That's really cool. I'll check that out. Agnes says, I've always read for an hour on the weekends and on vacation, and now I'm doing it on the days I work from home too. And I really like that. I used to be quite good at like reading first thing in the morning, and I think at the moment I feel, again, because of the chaos of things, it's harder for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason is. But as you can probably tell, I am surrounded by boxes at the moment because my flatmate Sana is moving out in a week and a half, which is crazy and quite sad. But it does mean that there will be much more space in the flat. So I'm looking forward to having my bedroom become like an office space, and then going between like the office to the living room to the bedroom. And I think that that will really help me delineate activities for any of those spaces. I don't know. That's not, yeah. It's like such a luxury to have that space, absolutely. So we'll see what happens with that. I also have all these, classic writer thing of like, oh yes, when I have all the space, I'm going to do so much more writing. We'll do probably exactly as much writing as I do now. Malji says, I've been rediscovering my passion for reading in the past few months, a bit before lockdown, and at the moment I go to bed around 9 or 10, and reading for a couple of hours works for me. Then again, I don't have a partner or kids to look after, and that I think is a big part of it for me. Like when I'm able to make all of these times, like I just look after myself. And it means that when I want to read, I can read, apart from obviously the work day, and any other little bits and pieces. But like mostly it means that when I want to read, I can read. It's just that it's like getting through that layer of my brain right now that's quite hard. Alyssa says separate spaces help focus, and Rachel says my reading routines right now are a break from all the world's problems, but I'm honestly afraid of becoming willingly complacent in that escape. Yeah, I think we all are a bit aware of that right now. It's kind of hard to know, not on every level, because obviously on some levels there's knowing whether you're doing the right thing or not. But I think in general, our sense of what's right and not has been shaken a little bit by the fact that our day-to-day normal has been shaken a bit. Jan or Jan, one of the two, has used Forest today to take conscious time out for reading today, and it really helped. I love the Forest app because you can grow all of these trees while you take a break from screens. Quite like, this is lovely, but I am so sick of screens in general. Like there have been so many times over the past month or so that I've just felt like throwing my phone out the window. I just not wanting to look at it. But then obviously it's how I connect to people in this time as well, and I just feel really torn between the two. But Forest is lovely because you can grow trees while you have a break from the screens. I used to use oh gosh, what was it called? Self-control. I think it was called Self-control. When I was doing my studies at uni, especially, but also a bit in secondary school. And it would just like stop you from going on Twitter and stop you from going on YouTube and stuff. And I found that so helpful, getting things done. But Forest is just much prettier. Self-control was just like a skull or something. I can't remember. There's lots of love for Forest. Okay, Jan, gotcha. Thank you. Fabulous. I don't know what fabulous is, but I'm glad that while I'm also is a self-control user in the past, I'd be curious to know if, aside from a couple of you who've already mentioned it, if any of you have started Blonde Roots, or also because the other one that I really want to read is Girl, Woman, Other, and I've been meaning to read that alongside it. And then, as I said, there's also the abridged version. So that's kind of feels like my reading intentions at the moment. And yeah, as I think I mentioned on Instagram or something, there's also The Emperor's Babe, which is fantastic. Mr. Loveman by Bernardine Evaristo. When I did a couple of weeks of work experience at Penguin, I think it was when I was working at Top Man, like I took a couple of weeks off that to do work. I took my holiday at Top Man so that I could do work experience at Penguin, basically. And when I was doing that, I helped make these like poster boards for Mr. Loverman that was just coming out. I remember it was really hard because I could never get the poster to lay flat on the board, and I was rubbish at it. It's like really terrible. But yeah, that's a really specific memory. Okay, so Tastes Like Brains has been reading the audiobook. Kate is moving quite slowly, and Amanda, once I started Blonde Roots, I didn't want to put it down. I was so hooked. So that's like the whole range, I feel like, of experiences. I just saw the map in my shelf and didn't realize how different it looked. Yeah, I love a book that begins with a map. And it also like this one took my head time to get my head around, because obviously it was trying to place it in the context of this map that I'm familiar with. Yeah. Heather says, I read Blonde Roots on Sunday. Luckily, my copy arrived last week. Okay, so hopefully this means that all of us who haven't yet got our copies, they'll be coming soon. And maybe all the postmen and women that they've encountered along the way have paused to read it. I don't know. I assume it's just in a pile somewhere. Oh, I feel so bad for the postal service in every single country right now. They must be exhausted. That's great. Okay, I'm trying to think of other books other than like the high fantasy books with maps. There's something about a map, because you sort of, when you first see a map when you're reading a book, you won't have that map in your head unless you like refer back to it. So it's kind of like this contextless thing that makes sense as you read the book. I don't know if that makes sense, but there's just something thrilling about like just having a map there, because you know that there's something geographical about the book you're about to read, whether that's where the book is going, like whether the book is going to move around, or whether it needs you to know location names, or whether there's something that's actually not plotted on the map to be discovered. So yeah. Heather said, my grandma used to tell me it's not okay to say postwoman. You should say lady postman. I think it was her attempt at feminism. I love that. I absolutely love that. That's great. Oh, really interesting to read your different responses to maps. Like, some people saying they never pay attention to it. Ducks Newburyport has one. I still haven't read Ducks Newburyport. Been meaning to. Kate, lots of people seem to be having trouble wrapping their head around the map, but my geography is so terrible that I'm really not having an issue. I think mine feels very like fluid in general. The Millie Molly Mandy books had maps. I don't remember that at all. Jan says, maps are the best. I used to have an atlas of Middle Earth. It's really fun. Valkyrie says, I've read a few books this year where they were set in African countries pre-independence, so I have to look up maps all the time online to work out what the names are of all those places. Yeah, and there's the book Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie that I did not know. I mean, it's like appalling, as I've said many times before. I did not know the history of that, of Biafra, and just, yeah, any of the history of it, and understanding, especially in the 1900s, but sort of over the recent history of a few hundred years, like how maps have changed and how place names have changed, and how a lot of the times like the map is the marker of colonialism itself, because the map existed to like prove a kind of ownership or something, or prove navigation. So what's the word, so that like goods and people and so on could be acquired and shared, and you'd know where to go and know the nautical routes to take. Like, it's so, there's so many levels to it. Yeah, maps are really interesting. I had this one map dress that has like the world on it. I bought it many years ago, and now whenever I look at it, I'm like, I think this is quite an old map on it, and I keep looking at it to see whether there are inaccuracies in what is charted. It definitely doesn't have the proportions definitely aren't totally right. I'd quite like a map dress where the map is what I would call upside down, but what those of you in the Southern Hemisphere would not call upside down. Oh, so the Millie Molly Mandy books had a map of the village on the inside of the cover. First one was the Chronicles of Narnia. Yes, I remember that map very well. When I read ebooks and I can't flick back to the maps, I have to look the maps up because I like referring to them so much. I didn't realize that they weren't in ebooks, that you didn't get the map in there. That feels like a crucial thing to include. The Ranger's Apprentice, I don't know that series. It was really useful for me to be able to be aware of what it actually means for them to be traveling from place to place. Yes, and I think, again, like that's another thing that I really like, that you see probably mostly in the fantasy genre, but like in general adventure books and so on, is that sense of like when you don't have like a car, or you don't have a faster mode of transport than by foot or by horse or so on, like what it actually means to travel that distance. I always think of that when reading Austen even, and just that sense of like, oh, it takes a day's travel to get here, and then you have to recover for 3 or 4 weeks or something, because it's such a turmoil to travel from place to place, and like there aren't necessarily smooth roads and so on. Just the fact of getting across land is something that we, I think, can take for granted, and I definitely was sort of taking for granted right until this lockdown. And now that I have my bike and I like cycle for like an hour to get to see friends and so on, it means that I'm aware of how big London is, but then also how my friends in the USA feel so far away and so like impossible to reach, and shows me how far away that is too when you kind of take out, you know, the questions of public transport and air travel and so on. So maps, who knew? I screenshot the maps of my real-time ebook so I can refer back to them easily. Map distortion is always a problem with all maps. Yeah, it is. And fans of the West Wing will know exactly the scene that I'm thinking of right now. Mireia says, does it have any paper towns maybe? That's a good question. I haven't checked my map dress for paper towns, but I should look. And we should also check everything for paper towns, really, just to be safe. Valkyrie says, I don't know if this is a trade secret, but how do you choose your Life's Library picks? Well, so basically it happens on an email chain and lots of back and forth discussion with me and John and Brandy and other people on the DFTBA team. But starting this, when we started this book club, there was a list of about probably 10 or 11 books each that John and I made, that we wanted to read and that we were excited to talk about, and Blonde Roots was on that list for me. And this must have been 2018, and we started the book club in 2019 officially, opened up subscriptions 2018, started 2019, and now it's 2020. So one thing that we always have to take into account is weight of books, which is something I didn't think about before starting a book club, because the heavier the book is, the more expensive it is to ship, and that's not only of a concern in terms of like how much we can donate to Partners in Health, because all of our proceeds go towards our community's efforts to reduce maternal mortality in Sierra Leone. But it's also because we don't want it to be, and we never wanted it to be like a book club that was like really, really expensive. It was really important to us that shipping could be included and that it could be included for international people as well. Because like I live in the UK, I didn't want to like shut out a huge number of people or have them have to pay a massive amount of money for the book club, which is why it was always important to us that anyone could take part for free, and then also find it from whatever local avenue they wanted to, but also that we would send a book, and that would be an option as well. I've deviated. Anyway, so John and I wrote up these long lists of books that we wanted to talk about that were like 10 books each. And then for the first year, we sort of compared them and sort of we were experimenting with like different types of form and different subject matter and alternating them and so on. And then when we were picking our books for this year, we also have two guest curators overall. So we had Hank, and we have someone else later this year. And then we really enjoyed doing the community pick last year. So I think we'll probably do that again at the end of this year. So we're compiling our lists, and it was just, I still found myself like wanting so much to talk about Blonde Roots because I love the book so much, and Bernardino Evaristo is such a fantastic writer. And also because for quite a long time I've been talking about the fact that like there is so much of my country's history that I don't know about, and that's an intentional thing because it is harder, I suppose, and there's been less of a willingness to talk about some aspects of our history, especially our colonial history. And there are ways that I was taught about it as a child, not even that long ago, like 20 years ago. Or more than anything, it's about what I was not taught. And that has been something that I've been really aware of in the last however many years as well, like all the things about empire and colonialism that I wasn't taught. So that's kind of like the background to why I thought this would be a good pick. And I picked it, I think sometime maybe September, October last year, because we have to pick it ahead of the time, because then DFTBA contacts the publisher and gets a huge order in. And sometimes, like in the case of books like If You Come Softly, the publisher then has to do a reprint because with the number of members there are of Life's Library, which is wonderful. So yeah, there's lots of like logistical things, and now because we have the audiobook subscription with Libra FM as well, like there's an element to that too, of wanting to make sure that the audiobook is ready to go, and whether, if needed, we can get an audiobook made. Like there's just lots of logistical parts to it, basically. But yeah, I mean, the main reason John and I choose books is because we're excited to talk about them, and I think it's really fun for us when we choose books that the other hasn't read. And there are a couple of exceptions to that, but like mostly we haven't read the books the other person has chosen, and it's really fun, I think, to come into a conversation with someone who knows a book reasonably well and knows it well enough to like have an excitement about it that makes them want to talk about it with other people, but also to then have someone who's coming to it for the first time, as many Life's Library readers will be. So you have that element of like reading and rereading at the same time. And it's just really fun. I don't know. I like it. I really like it. Carly says, I like looking at the maps at the end of the book, but I find it too distracting to look at before or during reading. And Mazabi, as many people are saying, is the first imaginary map that I remember is a Tolkien one, probably for The Hobbit. I remember that map very clearly. I remember my grandparents gave me The Hobbit, and I remember seeing that map. The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula Le Guin is great for reading about a long journey. I think it has a map. Shockingly, Heather, I have never read any Ursula Le Guin, and I really need to correct that. That is one of my many aims of things in my life to correct. Agnes's first map was in Magician by Ari Feist. Lots of epic fantasy going on. My friend has a map of Panem from the Hunger Games taped on the inside over her books, and when I read them, I noticed how different reading it was. Holly loves any extra bit of information at the front of the book. My favourite book is Portrait in Sepia, and when I'm reading it, I always refer back to the family tree. I haven't read that. And then, I love that observation. Holly says, I guess a family tree is a map of sorts. I was just thinking that, like, what I really, really love to do when reading a book by like Gabriel Garcia Marquez is refer back to the family tree. Like a lot of these Latin American books, I'll just find myself checking the family tree and being like, sorry, which one is he related to? And that's really true, that it is like a map. It's like a time map. Also, where are we in time, and where will we slot in? Yeah, that's great. Would there ever be a graphic novel in Life's Library? It's certainly not out of the question. Like we're not opposed to graphic novels. Yeah, I expect at some point. There's lots of different things I want to do. I want to do a play at some point. I think that'd be really fun. Lots of different forms and lots of potential there. But yeah, a graphic novel, we should think more carefully about that, because that would be great. Yeah, sorry, I'm just cooking. You can see me cooking alive. Amanda says, in Tulip, which is one of the shelves on Life's Library, we've been talking about how little we were taught about how slaves were treated, especially being on the ships. It's really eye-opening. I agree. Actually, like, the slave ships were one of the few things that we did cover in history in school. I remember learning about the tight fit, and I remember, yeah, seeing that famous like diagram of the slaves and so on, and how they look packed in. But yeah, that was kind of it. It was any real acknowledgement of Britain's role in it was very glossed over very quickly. Forget-Me-Not's favourite map has to be the Winnie the Pooh one. Yes, that was probably my first map, is the Winnie the Pooh one. So, yeah. Orderly Disorder is always happy to reread Ursula Le Guin for Life's Library. So that's a good subtle hint. I like it. Valkyrie likes writing up trees and maps of relationships to characters to remember how they were connected. Yeah, I was remembering recently, I think it was from a conversation I was having with my friend Lex about how much extra stuff I like to make around the books that I was reading. That was always really fun, just like that sense of like wanting to, I don't know, like involve yourself more in the story and just make more things around it. And I feel that excitement again. And I think a big part of that is like spending more time at home and not rushing around as much means that when I do engage with something, I want to make more things around it. Melody Williams wishes her copy of 100 Years of Solitude had a family tree. Yes, indeed. Kira is surprised we haven't done a poem book yet. Yeah, I agree with stay tuned. Stay tuned. Poetry is on the horizon. That is an exclusive from this live stream. Poetry coming soon to a library near you, your home library. Melody says, weirdly, I had to write down all the characters and their pronouns and relationships for all systems read. It really helped. Yeah, that makes sense, actually. I really want to reread that already and read all the other murder book ones. And there's just so many books to read. Just so many books to read. I was thinking about, like, I took a week off the other week, like just as holiday time, and I was thinking, oh, I'm going to get so much reading done in that time. But actually what I ended up doing was just like lying on my back and staring at the ceiling quite a lot, and just letting my brain process everything a bit. So maybe I need to take another week off and make that be the reading time. I don't know. Kira says, I've been wanting to buy another poem book. I guess this is a sign that I should hold off. I mean, take your time. You buy another poem book if you want, but just know that there's poetry on the horizon. Zara's first map was a big illustrated board book atlas I had as a kid that I would peruse endlessly, with the result that I named my stuffed caterpillar Emirates because I like the sound. That's very good knowledge of maps. We had a flag puzzle that we you could just like put. It wasn't a puzzle, like it wasn't a jigsaw puzzle, but you basically would match the flag to the country underneath, and I think the capital. I can't remember, but I remember that very clearly. And recently, I was doing one of these many quizzes that we've all been doing during lockdown, and one of them had a flag question, and the knowledge of the flag puzzle just rose to my mind. But now I think that there are many new flags since the last time. Since when that flag puzzle was produced, which I believe was during the 80s, because the USSR still going strong then, in my flag puzzle map. So yeah, actually, maybe it wasn't now. Maybe I have good flag knowledge from the 80s. Who knows? Alice has stuck 200 pages into the same book for weeks. Is it Alice or Elise? That's I'm learning all my pronunciations today. I'm doing them well. One of Melody's books is staring at her. Yeah, I know that feeling extremely well. It's also just the chaos. There's just chaos everywhere. Like Alice. Okay, cool. I thought so. And then I was like, double guessing myself, second guessing myself. All the words, they just don't come out. This talk of maps is making me think of Clara from Doctor Who. It's making me think of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which most things do. I don't know if you will have gathered that I love that film very much. But yeah, of like treasure. And there was also a book called The House That Sailed Away that I've probably mentioned on here before. That I used to love, that was about this house that literally sails away when a very heavy rainstorm comes in England, I suppose, in the UK. It was by Pat Hutchins. And the whole house sails away, and there are pirates and there's treasure, and it was just an absolute joy. And I love that book very much. You've all used to have this map board game where you had to travel around the world and answer trivia questions about different parts of the world. I'm sure going back the questions would be very dated. Yeah. Some of those things I think back to now, and I'm like, I wonder what these like key learning blocks about the rest of the world actually contained, and how many of them were like accurate or stereotypes or just like downright offensive, or still would kind of apply. Still be a bit of a generalization, but kind of makes sense. I don't know. Valkyrie remembers as a kid thinking that England was around where Papua New Guinea is. Yeah, well, not far off, just a bit of a swim. Kate's siblings have been learning all the states of America and their capitals, and they have now moved on to European countries and their capitals. I think the next area is South America. I had this really fun computer game. Whoa. I think it was like included in the computer. I don't think any money was paid for it, or maybe it was just a website where you match states to where they were and match states to the capitals. And that was how I had fun as a child. That and the flag game. So it really tells you a lot about me. Kira has about 10 audiobooks, not quite complete. I'm like that with my podcast at the moment. I just keep like bowing out about 15 minutes from the end. Sometimes Melody just stops in the middle of the book, gets distracted for a month, forgets where they are, then doesn't want to find their way back because rereading feels a bit boring. Yeah, I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. There are a lot of Aussies here. It must be because of the perfect time of night for Aussies. I think in general, I gauge my live stream times, whether that's Project Awesome or here on Aussie time. I think Aussies and I are just in sync. I really want to go to Australia, but not for a while. My neighbour just looked in through the window while he was leaving, and he's probably like, "What is she doing?" My weird neighbour. I'm the weird neighbour, to be clear. He's lovely. I like that everyone's used fictional characters for. Many people have used fictional characters for their usernames. I was creating a username the other day, and I was like, I don't even know what I would call myself anymore. I had such a long time of sitting on usernames, hogging them. Anyone else do the Jet quiz where you have to name all the countries in the world? It used to be the most interesting thing in the world to me. No, and now I think that's going to be how I spend the rest of my week. Or at least the rest of my week. It might be the rest of my lockdown, learning to name all of the countries in the world. Tastes Like Brains reads so many books at once, always has one audiobook, one physical, and one ebook on their phone. That's pretty good. Yeah, my reading habits have shifted dramatically. Ella is reading 6 books at the same time. Keep going. Like if you're able, I'm like genuinely thrilled to hear that some people are finding it not completely horrendously challenging to read at this time, honestly. Everyone else, just take it as slowly as you need to. Take it 3 pages at a time. Yeah, it's challenging. It's a challenging time. Sporkle is a website for country name quizzes. Yes, I used to spend so much time on Sporkle. Still love Sporkle. Another fun one I like is looking at a map and trying to guess what year it is from based upon the countries. That sounds great. I like that idea. But that's like another level. Like I don't think I'm quite at that level yet. I need to know more about the world. I remember like Sporkle quizzes, like naming all the characters in a book series and so on. I used to do a lot of that. Hi Natalie. We're just talking about quizzes and maps. Maybe we should start doing some like, I don't know, would it be fun to do nice library quizzes in terms of like Sporkle style, or would it feel like homework? I don't ever want it to feel like homework, but that's my thinking. So for example, the most recent change is that in 2018, 2019, Swaziland changed its name to Eswatini. So that's the current big giveaway. Okay. So we know. Yeah, I mean, like I definitely know that when I see like Rhodesia on a map that it's not recent. My lord, the number of things that are named after Cecil Rhodes in this country is ridiculous. Okay, people want Life's Library trivia. Okay, I mean, like maybe we should do like a general book quiz, but that's fun. I don't know, like that seems like a good time. Melissa would really like to read an LGBTQ+ book. Yeah, absolutely. Like we can. I mean, it depends like what you consider one, I suppose, in terms of subject matter. Is that what you mean? Because yeah, like we've definitely read books by LGBTQ+ authors already, but subject matter, yeah, for sure. Another giveaway is South Sudan because that officially became a country in 2011. Okay, I'm good. I can do those. I'm good on my like recent map history. I think the moment you get before before I was born, once you get before like 1991, that's when I start to get a bit fuzzy. Yeah, Life's Library pub trivia, minus the pub. Brilliant, I love it. YLAM's dad has a giant map from the late 80s where he puts pins everywhere he's been, but it has like USSR and Czechoslovakia on it. And that's how I first started learning countries. Yeah, I mean, USSR really complicated our country learning, I think, for many of us, especially still like well into the 90s as well. Melody's boyfriend wants to make a Harry Potter trivia quiz, but he asks for such weird trivia that it's not even fun to guess an answer. Yeah, I think that people in my friendship group, a lot of them have done and created Harry Potter quizzes for other friends. And then they come back and say like, oh, this trivia is like so easy and they're not getting any of the basic ones. And they run it through us and we're just like, I don't know. We're like, oh, this is simple stuff. But to be honest, Harry Potter trivia right now makes me sad. So might not be Harry Potter themed, but general book themed trivia / pub quiz sounds really fun. I'm going to have to think more about that. Should definitely do that. I'm trying to find a way to do it also that everyone can take part. Like maybe you put your answers in like a Google form or something, or is it? I don't know. But it's more fun to then do it as like a live stream, I think. And then you have like the time limit of it. So I don't know. I don't know what to do. Or maybe like in an ideal world, they'd just like make a video, or it would be like this, where we'd like do a live stream and we'd record it, and then anyone who wanted to do it later on their own time could do it, and people could agree to do it on their own time too. Yes, I think that's the plan. I think, okay, this is my complicated reasoning. I think the way of doing it would be that I would do it on a live stream and I would keep the video, and that people on Discord or something could agree to take it all again at a different time if they're in a different time zone or weren't available. And also people can just do it in their own time. But for anyone who wants to do it right now, we could do it now. The end. Not right now. I think you'll get me. I'm just like talking myself into a hole. Kate could tell Pangea. Okay, I could tell Pangea. But then like anything else from before 1990 also just ruined. Melody says 15 countries from one is a lot. I'm sorry for you all who had to live through the USSR falling apart. Yeah, it's more countries to learn. But also Eurovision helped me. Eurovision has helped me with my country knowledge. Maybe a Twitch stream with a live straw poll or something. I don't know. I feel like I need to not sign up to any new websites. And Zoom, I can't go on Zoom anymore. When I go on Zoom, I feel so stressed out. It is something about Zoom. I don't know what it is. Don't know what it is. I think there's a way to do it on YouTube. Honestly, that would be just great. Kahoot. Okay, a lot of people have mentioned Kahoot. I would consider Kahoot. Congratulations to Kate on finishing your math homework for the day. Very happy for you. Eurovision does definitely help with countries and flags, and such catchy songs. Such catchy songs. I will probably have to wrap this up fairly soon. So if you have any other questions or things you want to chat about, then just put it in the chat. But as I say, I want to keep doing these every couple of weeks, ideally. But might be monthly. It just depends on what's happening in the world. I do quite like doing it this time though, because the light's great. And it's like, I get to chat to the Aussies. I don't always get to chat to the Aussies. Suspense. Oh, there's a lot of love for Iceland's song. A lot of love for it. Everyone thinks Iceland should have won. Du sport. Maza says, having to teach European countries has helped me memorize them, but it was so hard. Yes. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about Eurovision is that you can't vote for your own country. Because I'm just like, yeah, you shouldn't be able to vote for your own country. Come on. Kira, if we get into the conversation about why anyone is part of Eurovision in terms of country to country, we'll just be here all night. Like Eurovision is kind of like its own European Union / Commonwealth. There should be like international trade deals within Eurovision members. I don't know. Yeah, all Holly says whiteness. Both true, both true. And because fun, also true. So many valid points. Nothing but valid points. As an Aussie, Australia, Loki shouldn't be in it. Yeah, that's correct. But while you're in it, we love having you. I wonder how long Eurovision would be if it were like every single country in the world. Like, not just in terms of how long would it take to sing all the songs, but just like all of the different elements of it, like the little video packages and the point awarding, all of that. Like, it would be, I mean, it would have to be at least a day, right? I don't know, but that's just kind of a fun concept to me. Okay, yeah, we just want to be included with something. Well, thinking of countries, we've had Life's Library pick set in North America, South America, Europe, sort of Africa. Does this mean we should read a book set in Asia? We actually have one set in Asia that's that's one of my picks that I really, 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 really want to do. But it involves a reprint, and then of course there was a pandemic and all of these other things happening. So yeah, I don't know whether we'll get around to that this year. I'm trying to think of the books that are coming rest of this year. Yeah, I don't know, but there's definitely one that that I really want to do that is set in Japan, just to pique your interest there. And I've tried to keep it international as much as we can as well. But I'd also like to do a book that's like properly set in Africa and has nothing to do with slavery, or isn't just about that narrative. Oh, I've got a delivery at the door, so I have to go. But I will finish this up quickly. Thank you everyone for coming, and talk to you soon. Bye.